I don't know what it was, but I remember we're all like, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face.
Welcome back, family. I pray you are having a beautiful day. Today I have an extremely exciting video for you about a giant that was apparently sighted in Afghanistan, and I have some footage to show you of somebody who claims to have actually been there. Now, for those of you who don't know about quote-unquote giants, they are in fact mentioned in the Bible, and they are called Nephilim. Now, the interpretation of what these quote-unquote giants actually are, the Nephilim, is debated even amongst scholars, but there are some references that I would like to show you later on. But before we embark on this captivating journey into the realm of ancient biblical events, I would like to say that even though this topic is very intriguing, we have to make sure we keep a level head and think about this situation logically and biblically. So let's start off by heading into the scriptures. In Genesis 6:4, it states, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown." Now this is from the King James translation, the King James version of Genesis 6:4. But if we head over to the original Hebrew, in the interlinear, we read, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also after that." So it was the Nephilim, which has been translated as giants. And this is where the term Nephilim comes from. Now, can you imagine the sight of these huge, colossal beings from a human perspective? Well, you don't have to, because in Numbers chapter 13 verse 33, we are given a glimpse into the perspective of the people who encountered them firsthand. Let's read. Numbers 13:33. "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." So they are literally saying they are the size of grasshoppers compared to those beings. And once again, if we head into the original Hebrew, the word that is translated as giants is Nephilim in the original Hebrew. Now, something very interesting is stated in the book of Enoch. And before we read from that book, I must say that the book of Enoch has officially been removed from the canon of scripture by the majority of churches, but the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still consider the book of Enoch canon, meaning it is officially part of their Bible, of their holy scriptures. So here is an insight that I find quite interesting. Enoch chapter 7, "And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms, and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them, and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds, and beasts, and reptiles, and fish, and to devour one another's flesh, and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones." Now, this is very interesting, but for those of you who don't like to read from scripture that is outside of canon, we won't go too deep into the book of Enoch, but it was something that I wanted to point out. So now, this leads us on to the modern account that I'm sure you're all waiting for to listen to the actual interview. But what exactly is this event that we're going to go through? Well, it is a chilling encounter known as the Kandahar Giant Incident during an operation called Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002. A soldier named Mr. K found himself face to face with a creature that defied all expectation. So without any further ado, here is that interview.
You were in Afghanistan in 2002, and you were called into a very remote section of Afghanistan because a patrol had basically gone missing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just around nothing.
For miles.
Right.
Like very remote.
Yeah, very remote. So we flew in. They're about 4 kilometers were hiking to the same area where they were supposed to make one of their checkpoints, one of the relic. And before we left, there was all kinds of what happened with the ambush, but that was even odd because at point of ambush, you need to call for maybe close air support, something, okay? There was no calls made, you just off the grid. So we're coming down a mountainside, and it was a nice path, goat path. As we bent around this corner, you could see this opening of the cave. There's a cave as we're coming around. And then I see there's a lot of rocks, which is another oddity, and then bone matter. I'm not close enough to identify what kind of bones, but I did see something I knew was a piece of our communication equipment. So instantly, we're thinking ambush, maybe animal, could be anything. And there was enough room in front of this cave, but it had a sheer drop-off. But there was enough room that we actually got into a decent dispersal in case of ambush.
You see something coming out of the cave, and it's moving with a speed and agility that catches you off guard.
Everybody. And he comes out. It was a man at least 12 to 15 feet in height. This is a monster. Red beard, then his hair was long past the shoulder, a scarlet red, and Dan runs at him and starts shooting, which broke all of us into the reality. As it was so
now your training is kicking.
Oh yeah, okay. Muscle memory, complete muscle memory. While Dan is moving at him, another bro of mine's laying down fire, and I start firing. He skewers Dan. He's now got him on this pike. It went 2. And he's still got him, and he's coming after more. We all just clicked in. I don't know what it was, but I remember we're all like, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. And our weapons components were in force. We had 308s, and we had Sarah's distance. This is sounding longer than it took. We're talking 30 seconds. And he's taking multiple hits, and is still moving.
He talked about this giant being 1,100 pounds, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet long, and it was killed. It was apparently shot somewhere in a cave in Afghanistan, but before it was shot, it lunged at several of our troops, our soldiers. It may have even gorged somebody. It was just a bizarre story, and it just sounds like the Nephilim from the Bible, doesn't it?
That's why we're so fascinated by this.
Now, before I play you the second part of this interview, which is just as fascinating as the first half, I want you to take a moment to comment below. What do you think about this entire claim? Do you believe that this is a real event that actually took place and is being accurately described? Or do you believe that this is a hoax? I would greatly appreciate your feedback in the comment section below. I also want to point out though, there is more than one witness claiming the same thing. So if that sways your opinion, let me know also in the comment section below. That being said, without any further ado, here is the second part of the interview.
Dan was dead. Okay. And Wyatt is a good man, probably one of the best men I know, now dead. Before I'd left, they were already starting what they call a 9-line, which is a medevac request. They're sending out a medevac request, then all of a sudden it's not a medevac request. All of a sudden we had a helicopter show up because, like I told you, it was a large precipice and a sheer drop. So the helicopter just came up from the drop. They had dropped netting, which is like cargo netting. It's like squares. We were told we had to bundle him up. Can we get another bigger helicopter? But it's almost like a Jolly Green Giant used to look back in the day that could get, through this area. Because the mountains, you gotta remember, Chinooks could only go in certain places because they had enough lift. Mm-hmm. And so we got him on there. The thing was too big. We couldn't move it. It smelled worse than a skunk. A corpse that's been around for a while.
Really fell.
Oh, it was like a combination because of the, how do you put that, the persistence of a skunk smell, but once the helicopter came in, dropped its little hook, and off he goes. The communication was sent out. We had a very large, possible human creature.
There you are in the hills of Afghanistan. How many troop members are you with?
We had 6 on my crew. When we say hills of Afghanistan, for us, we did not fly into the wilderness. We actually flew into a base. I guess this thing was transloaded out of the mountains by a CH-47. What I could see that it did have its 6 fingers. I remember taking my foot up and placing it up next to its foot, and it was extremely large. We estimated at about 12 feet, give or take. What I can tell you is the weight of the thing. Basically, it was approximately 1,500 pounds what was getting on the aircraft. Now, if you take away the pallet weight and all the rigging that we had to hold this thing down, we figured as around 1,100 pounds.
Of course we're upset. That's a given, okay? We lost a very good guy. But add to that, you're discussing something that even in our after action report, they're saying rewrite it. And we had to rewrite it the way they wanted.
How many fingers?
6 toes.
6 toes.
And the nails were weird because if you see somebody that ever has, I don't know what it's called, but
Like a fungus on
their nails, how they get pointy and they're like gnarly, that's what they look like.
Now family, before you go, I actually have a bonus clip of another claimed witness. Take a look.
I mean, if there are 15-footers or 18-footers roaming the planet and our military has brought them down, I mean, we have a right as American citizens. I mean, this isn't classified military stuff. This is something that we need to know, and it points back to the biblical prophetic narrative. What are your thoughts on that?
I think here's my personal opinion. My personal opinion is if it points that the Bible is accurate, they don't want it. If it goes against Darwinian evolution, it's not to be spoken of.
So you're out in the boonies running around looking for high-value targets.
Correct. And we're doing those operations, and as we're getting into firefights, we're getting into different scrimmages, you want to put it that way, we would come back to the base and we started hearing this rumor about a unit that killed this, what they started calling this really tall person. At first I didn't think anything of it, and then come to find out that the person that they killed actually was 3 times the size of a man, had extra digits on their hand and digits on their feet, and had red hair, and a special unit had come in and wanted this target. What we'd heard that they had killed this thing inside a cave, or the mouth of a cave, and it was common knowledge among the military to hear this.
Now, when you say common knowledge, what do you mean? I mean, how does that work?
Years later, to come to find out, when I had returned from Afghanistan and had met other military members that had not been there in the operations with me, if you would bring up the giant of Kandahar, they knew about it. When you first hear it, you're thinking like, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be a hoax. But then after things go down a certain way and you keep hearing it, you start to realize it's not a joke. They kept telling us to keep our weapons high, which means normally it's 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, but they kept telling us to put it towards a man's head and put it higher. So we would question, why do they want us to shoot higher than a man's head?
That's bizarre.
It is.
Our contact said 2002 is when they shot this 15-footer or taller, and you're now in this, in the service around 2005. This word has gotten out, and what I find interesting here too is that if you're going to create a hoax, I get that, but you got details: 6 fingers, red hair, double rows of teeth, 6 digits on the toes, and of course that brings it right back into what we hear about in the biblical prophetic narrative, specifically the Nephilim. Your thoughts?
I agree. I would tell you that when I was doing my time in the service, and the stuff I saw, some of it I couldn't explain, like lights in the sky during firefights, like orbs, or lights that would be the size of like a softball that looked that size looking up in the sky but making weird noises. And even going to Iraq myself and being near Haditha Dam and seeing the prisoners underneath the dam, and prisoners would scream and there'd be this awful feeling underneath the dam, and then later finding on the Bible that angels locked underneath there. We're talking about.
And this Haditha Dam is the Euphrates.
Is Euphrates,
And
correct?
an angel supposedly locked underneath the Euphrates,
Correct.
which is released in the book of Revelation.
Correct.
That's bizarre. So you're actually at this site, and soldiers are being locked, imprisoned underneath the Haditha Dam.
Correct.
And they're freaking out.
They were freaking out. They said they could feel it. In fact, the people who would guard them would they would draw straws to see who would actually take them.
No one wanted to go.
Nobody wants to go down. Going back to Afghanistan, we would hear these things. We would hear the locals talk about rumors of these giants.
What would the locals say? How would they talk about it?
They say that they lived in the caves and they would eat people, and
They were cannibals.
they were cannibals. And we, at the time, chalked it up to our United States as Bigfoot.
So there you go, family. You heard it for yourself. 2 witnesses, and there are apparently more as well, who all claim the same event took place. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comment section below. I also want you to remember there were some very interesting points that the second witness spoke about in regards to what they want to hide from you, what they don't want you to know. And I find that quite intriguing. Also, he brought up the river Euphrates, and Yah willing, there will be some very, very interesting videos coming up on this channel about the river Euphrates. So if you enjoyed this video, family, and you want to help me out, make sure you do smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload a new video, and you won't miss out when interesting videos come up in the future. Big shout out to the channel members, the financial supporters of my content. Honestly, your support goes a long way. If you want to become a channel member, then hit that join button. You get a badge next to your name, custom emojis, and I try to respond to every channel member's comment. Also, there is another way to support. If you don't want to do it directly through YouTube, you can head over to my Patreon account, patreon.com/SaintAVS. I love you so much, family. I pray you have a beautiful day. May the Most High Yah shine his face upon you always and give you peace. And I'll see you on the next one. Shalom, shalom.